Hi and welcome. My name is Amy Bryant. I'm a psychotherapist here in Atlanta, Georgia with Wild Child Counseling, and I do parent education worldwide online through Parenting Beyond Punishment. And I'm here today to speak with Lori Petro of Teach Through Love about conscious communication and how the communication that we use with our children can really help us learn how to interact with our kids and teach them what they can do without using coercion, shame, blame, or pain. So welcome, Lori. I'm so excited you're here today. I'm excited to talk about your conscious communication cards because they're just amazing.
Well, I always love talking to you, Amy. So.
I always love talking to you.
And we have Tuesday, Thursday this week and next week. So
yes,
you have to jump off, and you're like, no, we missed it. You get to catch us all week.
You get to catch us
week, but
the whole No Swing Challenge.
Yeah, totally.
Yep. Which gives you an opportunity to construct some questions for us too.
Yeah.
So if you come back. So thank you. So today I was hoping you could talk a little bit about sort of what your conscious communication cards are, and maybe just start there.
Yeah. So the cards are, I created them so that we would have a way to transform what we're so used to saying to our kids. All of that, all the things we heard growing up, all the automatic reactions that come out of our mouth that we're like, well, if I don't say that, what do I say? And so it's so easy to talk about conscious parenting and, oh, you have to, get down and think, talk about emotions and all of this stuff. And it sounds great in theory, but it's really hard to translate that into actual language. And okay, so what do I do in that moment when the kids are screaming and somebody's throwing, something, and there's all this chaos around. And so they're really a way for us to transform the punitive, reactive language into compassionate communication that's conscious, aware, and proactive. So, sometimes, it is about the emotions. And so there's tools to be able to speak about it without having all these logical conversations. Like, I don't want people to talk too much. These aren't scripts to say, oh, say all these things, and then kids will suddenly magically do what they're supposed to do.
I love that. It's kind of like, for those of us for whom conscious communication was not modeled, it kind of helps us get in touch with probably what we did hear as kids and what we hear from friends and neighbors and things that pop up, right, in our own minds, and then helps us reconceptualize it.
Exactly. Yeah. And they help retrain our reactions, because in addition, and I think we'll show some of the cards after, but in addition to the language examples, there's also what we can do, what we can focus our attention on. So it's these, I call them stage directions, because it's like, go here, do this, think about this, things that we can take in but not have to say, but it's a direction to go in. So, noticing what I see without judging it is something I can do that's still active, but I don't have to say anything. So it's not just always about use this language. It's about, how do I train my brain to start thinking about how, approaching this situation differently. And then the cards, which I think we've broken up. Should I go right into that? They're broken up into these three areas of focus that I think we can always pinpoint when we're having conflict or behavior challenges with our kids. We can always pinpoint it to one of three areas, and those areas are support, stress, and skills. So I'm going to show these cards.
Yeah.
We have them. So this is our support card, and this is in the actual deck. It our guidelines. It's kind of like we have the support, stress, and skills to show you, to talk about the three areas. So with support, we want to look at, is our child refusing our limit or resisting us because they feel this disconnection? So it's not that, we have to focus on skill building, which is a different area, and they're outlined with the green cards. But it's that my child feels disconnected from me and is in need of some kind of emotional support to get through the challenge before they can work on building skills. So, being able to connect with our kids through empathy, which is just quiet listening. It's not saying I know that you feel sad all the time. It's just quiet and getting down, connecting with that child on their level, and that says to them, I know that you're having trouble, or I just see you in this situation. I don't even have to name it all the time. It's just I see you.
I think that's so important. Conveying empathy just with our body language and our presence, because talking can be quite dysregulating for a lot of children and adults. But having that quiet presence and expressing that quiet presence feels supportive.
It does. And it's I think for me, this was one of my big, thing I had to work on as a parent, because I'm really good at giving, here's the brain science and the logic behind everything that you ever want to know, because I'll give you all the research and the info. But really, people are like, no, I just need to be validated for who I am. I want to be seen and heard in this moment without advice, without counsel. And there's a time for that, building skills. There's a time for figuring out and brainstorming and using that problem solving approach. But there's something before it. We have to connect first. And through that connection is what will help us move into regulating stress, like helping kids, calm their systems and get their brains back online so that they can use language and use their thinking brain to solve problems. But there's definitely those series of steps. So I broke the cards up into those areas so you can see how you can focus on something. Once you identify what your child's really needing in that moment, or what they're really asking for, kind of hone in on what should be my first step, what should be the first aid that I apply.
Right.
Okay. Are you all right over there?
Yes. And it's all coming through good. So that's good.
I know there haven't been any glitches.
Yes. So let's talk about one of the cards as an example.
So I think we were gonna do you want to do the shy or the tone?
Let's do stop being so shy. And then if we have time, we can talk about the tone.
What time do we go until?
We're going to go for 30 minutes, and we started a little bit late, so.
Okay, just 30. Okay, I don't know why I had in my head an hour, but okay. Then we do want to, okay, now I see what you're saying. If we run out of time, I'm like, how will we run out of time? So stop being so shy. I like this example, as I told you earlier, because conscious communication is not trying to imply that we're always, yelling at our kids or blaming them or shaming them or, trying to guilt them unconsciously. But sometimes we are trying to push them to have skills and to, just show maturity that maybe they're not quite ready. Maybe they still do need that connection to feel supported before they can actually show whatever skill or maturity, that we're trying to build in them. So stop being so shy can be really supportive, right? We feel like, well, yeah, that should be under support because it is supportive. But when we say to a child, stop being so shy, we're sort of implying that how they're feeling and being right now does not have value. I don't want to be so extreme about it, but I think even when we're angry, there's value to that. It tells us there's something that I don't like, that I want to change, or that I want to communicate, or a feeling that I'm having that I need to share. So it's all these feelings are purposeful. Even shyness, which we also mentioned, can so often be misunderstood or mistaken. They're not really shy. They're just very aware and very tuned in and very cautious. And they want to investigate and know somebody before they are willing to be vulnerable. And that's a self-protective mechanism, right? That's just, I think, natural. And some kids maybe are just more sensitive to their environment, so they don't jump in as quickly. But stop being so shy, or stop being anything. We can plug in anything in that place. And it sort of just sends the message that, how you are feeling or being right now isn't okay. And so how should we best, because I know there may be some people that are familiar with the cards, but some people aren't. So I hold it up really quick and go through. So every card has a title,
Yeah.
And on the top section of the card are the things that we want to avoid.
I love it. I'm going to read it out loud. So she says at the top, avoid judgment, stop being so shy. So instead, we could just notice, right? And then you say that, right? Notice there are a lot of people here. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. And that's like normalizing
Is
it.
it in front of you, or are you reading it from me?
I have it in front of
Okay.
me
Okay. So
because I
yeah,
have like a dozen sets. Um,
it's awesome that you're like finding them useful with your.
I love them. I use them at my office. I share them with parents, neighbors, friends. If I have neighbors here, I know you've
And I
seen
have to
them.
say, it's you guys, like it's everybody out there that has been following Parenting Beyond Punishment and Teach Through Love and the Stop Shaming campaign when we did
Yeah.
that, and all of these places that shared these cards that I just created online, and you guys were like, "Oh my God, this, and we need one for this, and we need one for that," and
So many uses. There's just so many uses for them, classrooms and therapy rooms. So I love this. So like, I've had this thought, and I know I've definitely heard it, that I don't understand why you're sticking right next to me. You know everybody here,
yeah. So
right?
and we can even and we say it, and we can even be so understanding and kind, and
Right.
trying to be empathetic,
Right.
but we're kind of like pushing. We're like pushing away the shyness because we want to bring out this personality that we know it's under there. It's like we know that there's
Right.
this, kid with so much to say out there. But
And we want them to have fun, and we're afraid they're going to miss out.
yeah, like there's so much good
Hmm.
intention. So I just want, because I know that people can feel sometimes judged in parenting because there is so much judgment. So these cards are not meant in any way to make people feel judged or badly for the
Hmm.
things that they said. Because usually we're all like, oh my God, I've said that. I've said everything at the top. And
Yeah.
I created a lot of these cards because I have said them. Or
Right.
wanted to say them, or said them and been like, okay, that wasn't good. Okay.
Like, let me take that back.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Let's
That's
go next.
yeah.
But
But I like it. They want you to read the card. I'm going to hold it up and you can read it off your thing. So here are this.
I know, we should have. Is there a way to share a screen?
Do you have a picture of it?
Yeah, I have like the PDF of the cards. But that might take too long. Maybe we should do that.
Okay. So I like this one too. Like, let go of my arm and go sit with your friends, right? We want them to have fun and to connect and to be there for the reason
And
that
this
we went.
also be at some point we might start to feel frustration because
Yeah.
they're not having fun that we thought they should have, or we want to be, do our own thing and wherever we are, like we
Right.
need space as well, or adult time. Maybe we're depending on adult time and they were gonna have kid time, and
I
so
want to have an adult conversation.
exactly.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, especially when they're young and you really don't have all of those choppy conversations from like 1 to 4, because you're always running in trying to, put out a fire or save somebody from like choking on a beetle or whatever it might be.
Beetle.
Actually, my sister ate a beetle like at the beach when she was 3, so that probably is what that came up in my head. But there's like some
Yes.
emergency situation that we have to tend to when they're so little. So we
Right.
might start to get frustrated with this
Yeah.
as well. And that's really important to validate for ourselves and not say, oh, I shouldn't be frustrated. I should just let them be. No, be frustrated. Like,
Yeah.
feel that frustration as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then do the thing that Amy taught me to do, which is walk away and grab a glass of water.
Right.
It's just time to walk and breathe and step away from the situation. And if they follow you, because a shy kid might follow you, with the last thing that it says is blame assumptions. So we want to avoid blaming. Blame and assumptions, we miss that teachable moment. So every card is kind of showing us how we miss that teachable moment. So if we say something, might get frustrated and say, well, then why are we here? If you don't want to join in, let's just go home. And we might say that offering in a way as a threat, and we also might say it in a way that is just sort of assuming that the child doesn't want to be here and then thinking that we're helping them out of their situation. Even if we say it with a lot of like kindness, or if we say it with sort of like a fine attitude, like, okay, fine, whatever. Either way, we didn't get to honor the experience. So on the bottom of the card, we have, and there's always, everything's sort of in 4 steps. Obviously, we don't have conversations in exactly 4 chunks of information, but for the ease of the cards and to start to train our brain to look at things differently, there's always, we have the avoid judgment, avoid dismissing, avoid demands, and then blame plus assumptions equals that missed teachable moment. And then on the bottom, what we do instead of, so we're going to avoid judgment. What do we do instead? We want to notice without judgment. Just notice what you see. There are a lot of people here, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed. Just saying that and just leaving that there as you hold your child's hand is so much more regulating than stop being so shy, or I don't understand, you know everybody here. It's just more, because those are triggering. It's like, oh, then why do I feel this way? And I shouldn't feel this way, but I still feel this way. And then your child just gets all riled up. But yep, there are a lot of people here. You know, it's okay to feel overwhelming. There's a lot going on. And then just leave it there. You don't have to judge it, assume anything. You don't have to make any more assumptions about that state, but just noticing it in our kids. And then acknowledging feelings and validating needs. These are 2 big important steps that, you know, they can really come in different orders and you kind of have to follow your kid's lead, but they're important steps. So just acknowledge the feeling. It seems like you feel uncomfortable walking over to say hi. Or maybe that, you know, maybe that's just an example, right? There could be many reasons or many things that you notice in the child.
Right.
You might see fear because someone's here that, you know, that they don't necessarily get along with really well. And you notice that that kid's over in the circle, you know, being the, you know, the big head of the party and getting all the attention, and your child's hesitant. You know, you're feeling hesitant to walk over and introduce yourself or say hi. So just acknowledging how they feel in that moment, again, is regulating. And then validating the needs. So I think we don't want to give our kids the time. Like my kid used to take, and Amy, I'm sure you can get on board with this, but my kid would take a full, like we go over for the 1.5-hour play date when she was little, and it would take 45 minutes to warm up. And so they have like, you know, just that.
Every time. I mean, and you've met my child. Oh, well, we've met each other's children.
Yeah.
But yes, it would take sometimes the whole play date.
And best buddies saying that goodbye though, right?
Right, of course. I don't want to leave you. Right.
But that warm-up time is super necessary.
Uh-huh.
My kid would go to a party where she knew everybody and didn't want to go in. Now she's 12, so she still doesn't like to go into new places, but she's starting to mature in this way that she'll do it much quicker. When she was 9, 10, still was having just that unease, that not, okay, I need some time before I go in. And and these were friends that she was classmates with, that she enjoyed, but it was a new environment, or maybe there was a new person there that added and changed the whole dynamic for her.
When there's all the sensory input, right? There's the lights and the movement and the sound, and
which
am I comfortable in these clothes, and who's that mom? Who's that dad?
Yeah, who's that new person? I haven't seen them before. So these are all things that we can, again, just, we think a kid is being shy, like they don't want to interact, or they're having trouble, which might be a completely different issue. And still, though, we still apply the same notice without judgment. We still just want to validate the need. So whatever it is, that's why the cards aren't just scripts, but they help us in whatever our situation is, just point us in that right direction. Where do I go next? And then the last section is when we provide that unconditional, I think the validate needs was just saying, you need time to adjust before you're ready to join in. Well, let's walk over and look at get some food or get something to drink, or whatever's in your environment, find something else to go investigate that gives your child some time to acclimate to the environment and to the people that are there. And like Amy was saying, all the sights and the sounds and the sensory information that's overwhelming them, which I still get. I had to go to a fundraiser a couple of weeks ago, and I was like texting my another introverted friend, but who has known the kids, been in the community for a really long time. And I'm like, are you going? She's like, yes, are you going? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I will if you will.
Yes.
Because I was still sort of dread. I know a lot of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that wanting to sort of hang back and check things out before we jump in, or wanting to have somebody to connect with that we know, is just part of who we are.
Right.
We're going to take that with us, even though I'm mature and I can calmly and walk in and speak eloquently now most of the time. I didn't grow out of my my introvertedness or some of my sensory stuff that, you know, if I get too overwhelmed, if I go into a really loud restaurant, at the end of it, I'm like exhausted.
Oh, me too.
So yeah, there's these things that we don't need to grow out of because they're part of what makes us sensitive and aware and have whatever abilities we, you know, have as a kid. But I think when we push all that out of a kid, then they go, oh, you know, why am I overwhelmed by the noise? And then they think that,
right.
You know, again, they take that away thinking that there's something wrong. Not obviously if this is just a once, you know, it's not saying that if you say to your kid one time, stop being so shy, that they're destined to become, you know, have self-esteem issues. I hope nobody is taking that away.
Right. I think you know, knowing who we are, you know, are you an extrovert, an introvert, an ambivert, somewhere in between? And what about your child? Are they an extrovert, an introvert, an ambivert, right? So knowing this about ourselves and our children can help us with this piece, because it helps us be more aware of what our needs are. So my parents were very much extroverts growing up. And so I followed that, but it turns out I'm actually not an extrovert. I was just doing what I needed to do to be accepted. But it was exhausting. And now that I know, I can be like, I think I'm going to say no to this so that I can go to this. And so knowing that's important.
It is. No, I mean, and I love knowing. I think I've always been sort of a seeker of who am I? Why do I act the way I do? And behavior of people in general. But knowing things like, you know, the Myers-Briggs personality and just, you know, introvert or extrovert or different, knowing about myself helps me with my child, helps me support my child in the ways that I know I won't get depleted all the time. So just having that knowledge of our kids, knowing their sensitivities, their temperaments, what they like, what they respond to, what they react to. You know, some kids love to be hugged and cuddled and squeezed, and it really regulates them. And other kids, it's completely different. They don't
do it.
They're regulating. So just knowing that we always want to take that, kids want to trust that we're safe, that we're emotionally stable somewhat, so that, you know, when they're getting crazy angry, someone's going to stand by and be calm, right? Someone's going to stand by and say, I've got this. I'm going to, you're melting down. I'm going to get you some support, or I'm going to help you however, but I'm going to remain. Not that we're saying this out loud.
No, but
this is the tone that we're setting.
Yeah. Well, it's that attunement.
Yes.
We all want someone to be able to recognize when we are hitting our limit. Like when I'm hitting my limit at home, my husband makes me a cup of tea. Like, oh, I see Amy needs a little extra support. You know, like how amazing is that we could bring that in before they hit their wall or before they've had too much, and to see it.
And I think we what's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes I lose all my words, which is funny because I write them all down. We so need that connection, and we deny, just I think unconsciously as humans, like, oh, we're tough, I can get through this.
Right.
You know, and I heard somebody say on a show recently that, you know, we're born alone and we die alone. And I'm like, well, we're not really born alone, because we're born connected to another human being, literally connected. Literally.
Yeah.
We're not born alone, right? We're born connected. And I feel like that connection is, so just his ability to recognize that in you and then do something to move you into a better mindset or a more mindful, calm space. We depend on that connection. I think we want our kids to be so independent, or we want to seem like we've got everything under control. And we don't, but we do. We need that. We need other people to really thrive. I think we need other people to come in and be supportive players. We're not in this just alone. And it can be hard because we think, oh, well, it's so easy, you know, just pick up your shoes. What's so
Right.
hard about that?
Right.
I was like melting down on the floor. I can't
Right.
pick up my shoes. Or did you see the video of the kid? Breaks my heart. Love it because it's just so true. The little girl who couldn't get over the waffles. Waffles or pancakes? She's like, I just can't stop thinking about waffles. And her mom is like, baby girl, we had waffles for breakfast and for that we can't have any more waffles. She is just so, she's bawling her eyes out about,
Right.
I can't stop thinking about waffles, right?
Right.
Like, because in any other scenario, we could get really frustrated with a kid who keeps asking
Right.
for waffles, right? And not realize the depth of her connection to waffles and the pain that she's
In that moment, right?
Well, it seems so ridiculous. Kids are so little and immature, and, you know, holding on to this idea of, you know, whatever was behind the waffle. It could have been a moment that she remembers connected to the waffles that she's trying to recreate. And every time she has waffles, that emotion or feeling that she had with grandma when grandma made the waffles, or mommy or whatever before work, she's trying to recreate that.
Some moment when they were laughing together as she was putting the waffle in her mouth, or, you know, whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, so kids have these emotional memories, and, you know, sometimes when they don't know why they're being so overwhelmed or that they need this connection, it comes out about waffles or about, I want the blue cup instead of the red cup, or, you know, tweens slamming the door saying, you don't understand me.
Right.
And it's really, I just am looking for that connection, that support.
Yeah. We have one comment/question, two. One said, I've read a couple of books, I've gone through some classes, and this is the piece of the bridge I've been looking for. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Wonderful. Just,
And
I wonder which piece she's talking about.
I think the words, right? The conscious communication. And then another person says, my 5-year-old has been very shy recently. Today we met some friends when we were out, and she just looked everywhere else rather than saying hello to her own friend. And she put sort of like this sad, worried face emoticon. And I think we all know what it's like, especially at 5, you know, but really this is building skills little by little. And my daughter at 9 now will go to parties by herself, will greet friends, will say hello to people, you know, appropriately, but it does take time and trust and turning inward and going, wow, I feel really uncomfortable that my daughter won't say hi to someone. But knowing that that's my stuff and not hers. Because who she is matters, and what she does right now really matters. And we, you know, like we talk about this a lot. We see this a lot right now. And how do we help each other appreciate our differences? We have to appreciate if our child is shy or an introvert. And we want them to appreciate those things. I think that's important.
And that, just the overwhelm, like it sounds like maybe this meeting for mom and the kids, maybe there was a little build up to it, if there was excitement around it. Just the excitement when you get to that place, like total shutdown, I can see happening, because to be so excited and then to have that moment and kind of be like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't even know what to say. And that could be.
Oh, I can just see that happening, right? I'm so excited. We're here. Oh my gosh, I'm frozen. Right? Oh, yeah.
And it's like you said, little by little, building skills, just supporting them in that. Because oftentimes, if they do really feel that support, it may take them the 45 minutes, like we talked about earlier, but they'll break through and they'll be like, okay, I'm ready. And then every time we give them that support, they get ready a little faster and a little quicker, right? Because that's how the brain works. Every time we mow down that path and go down that brain, you know, pathway and fire those signals with support and scaffolding, where we kind of stand by and just watch it build and emerge. And we, you know, or I used to say a spotter at like for a gymnast, because we're there if they fall, but we let them, you know, look around the pole, and we let them land the mount, and we only go in and try to, you know, spot them when it's necessary to provide guidance. But letting them have that experience of not talking to their friend the whole time, because that might be a really valid, rewarding motivation for next time. You
Right.
know, just without you having to do anything, it's like, oh, I used up all my time, but I did feel safe eventually. So next time we go to meet, I bet in the brain, it'll get to that place faster.
Right. And we don't want to short circuit that lesson by saying it to them.
Right.
Because sometimes our words really do get in the way of those lessons. And that's a hard thing. And it's something we're all working on moment by moment.
That with everybody in our
Mm-hmm.
lives, right? All of the mixed messages that come out. This is actually, do we have time for a quick funny story?
Yeah, sure. Tell a quick funny story.
Totally how I got, and you might have heard this, Amy, but it's completely how I feel like I've come full circle. 20 years ago, I remember sitting between two friends. They were dating. And I actually didn't know them very well. They were friends of like someone that I was dating. But they were having this girl boy drama conversation, and she was upset that he came into the party and didn't talk to her the whole time, but it came out in, well, you always leave me and you never this and you this, and then he came back at, well, I need this and you always do this, and it was like this you. And for some reason I just stopped and I was like, well, what she's really saying is that she feels alone and left out and like you don't care about her. And I went into this whole thing and about what each of them really said underneath what their words came out. And they both were like, yeah, that's what I meant. And suddenly it was like just like this moment of, oh, the translation coming through, because we constantly say things, but it's like you don't do. I'm not explaining the story as great as in the moment that it happened, but it was like this moment of, yes, that's exactly what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was, obviously I was somebody outside of the situation, I could see it easier, but when it was just such an amazing example of, you do this and you left me and you don't, and what does the other person hear but blame and shame, and then they react,
they get defensive, and
but that's not what really, what that person, she was just trying to share her feelings, right, and how she really felt. So
yeah,
I feel like I've come full circle from relationships to kids. There we are.
It's life, right? Yeah. One more relationship or two or three or four. So Lori and I are going to talk on Thursday as well, I think at 1 p.m. Eastern, so 2 hours difference. And we're going to talk about her cards. We're going to be talking about skills cards next time. So some of the things we're thinking about talking about is hurry up, or come on, it's time to stop. We've got to go clean your room, or apologize right now. So those kind of everyday life skills that we talk about, or that we're helping our children learn. So I hope you'll join us on Thursday. Come with some questions. We'll come with pretty much what you saw here today. And we look forward to being in connection with y'all then. Thank you so much, Lori, for being here.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, parents, for being in, and educators for being here as well.